Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. In today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes people make when hitting the heavy bag, and they happen to be my 5 biggest pet peeves. The first mistake people make, and the biggest of my pet peeves, is when the bag starts swinging too much. A lot of people, when they see the bag swinging, they think it's a positive thing. They're thinking they're hitting with a lot of good power, but really, it shows a lack of technique and a lack of control. You have to think, what is the bag doing and what am I visualizing on my opponent? And if the bag is swinging, it's like I'm lateral tracking. If I have my opponent in front of me and they're circling one way, I need to meet them with my strike. Same thing, if they're moving this way, I need to find a strike that hits it. So if the bag is swinging, I need to make sure I stop the bag because that shows that I'm using good timing to stop my opponent. So the idea is when hitting the bag, hit it with control and hit it with good timing. Again, the bag swinging doesn't mean you're hitting it with good power and good technique. The better technique is getting the bag to stop as it moves because you're showing you have good timing. The second mistake people make when hitting the bag is pushing the technique. Too many times when you hit the bag, again, it's not about pushing the bag, and the bag swinging more doesn't mean you're hitting hard. It just means you're pushing the bag more. So when hitting the bag, it's important to understand the difference between pushing and snapping. In good martial arts, every technique has a good ending snap point that's going to give it impact and power. So when you hit the bag, make sure you hit with good extension. When you want to hit hard, people end up forcing their technique and not letting their technique unfold. Good power comes from the length and the extension. So if you're pushing the bag and it's moving, you're not hitting it properly. You can actually hit with more force, more precision, and more power, and the bag doesn't move. So that's the key when you're working, especially your straight punches. Try to punch the bag as hard as you can without the bag getting to move. If the bag is moving more, it means your follow-up strikes aren't going to be there. If I want to kick and the bag is moving, it slows the timing down, and it's not really realistic. Right? You need to be able to punch, pop, and mix and flow. If the bag is swinging too much, your technique's gonna be off. So make sure you hit with full extension and full snap. It's not about pushing, it's about creating the impact as the target. So as soon as my punch hits, I pull back right away. Not only am I gonna have more impact, it's gonna allow my punches to be a little bit faster. And in a real fight, in a real situation, those are the ones that are gonna give you the knock. The third mistake people make when hitting the bag is resetting it with your hands, and this drives me crazy. So they hit a nice combination, the bag swinging, then they stop over and they let the bag stop, which is extremely frustrating to see because the bag is an opponent. You need to visualize what's happening in the fight and the different fight concepts you're trying to do. Okay, so make sure you understand what is happening. So if the bag is moving, you can't tell your opponent, you can't be on the street and tell your opponent, hold on 1 second, can you please reset so I can be in good feet? It doesn't work that way. So make sure when you're doing the technique, use other strikes to stop the bag. If the bag is swinging and I'm working my punches, use a low kick, stop the bag with good techniques, and then go back to what you're working. If the bag is swinging, I can use front kicks, round kicks, anything, but just don't go over and stop the bag because that drives me crazy. The fourth mistake people make when hitting the bag is they don't understand entering and exit. They're staying stationary in front of the bag. That's not possible in fighting. In fighting, you need to be able to step to close distance as well as exit to avoid counter strikes. So when doing bag work, make sure you work on your stepping, work on your angles. You have to make sure you step to enter and you step to exit. That's gonna give you more power and it's gonna automatically build in good habits. You need to be able to strike by closing distance and you need to be able to move. So practice different enters and different exits as well. Don't just be a standing target, create those different, more realistic style enters and exits. The combination doesn't finish until you're out of range from any counter shot. The fifth and final mistake people make when doing bag work is not having a purpose. You should go into your bag work and understand what am I particularly working on. To just go in and start getting wild, there's no point of doing that bag work unless it's just to get tired. But the bag work is a study tool. It's a tool you want to use to improve certain parts of your technique. So for example, I like to use it for all different concepts, whether it's punching, kicking, enter, exiting, range. You have so many different things to work on. It might be the tool where your coach in class told you you're not turning your hips over. So you go to the bag and you drill these things. But your coach should be able to come up to you during your bag work session and ask you, what are you working on? And you should have an answer. Take your time, slow it down. It's not about just getting wild and hitting this bag as hard and as fast as you can. Use it as a training tool, improve technique, and then put concepts together. You can use it to improve your technique, but you can also use it as a tool to work distance and range. Sometimes I'll tell my fighters, hit and move, stay long, use your single strike. Sometimes we want to get inside, fight head to head. That is a purpose, using different fight concepts in order to improve. And it's also a conditioning tool. You can use Tabata drills, you can use it as a timer. A lot of times during the end of fight camp, I like to have my fighters do their rounds on the bag. Because a lot of times if I'm holding pads all the time for my guys, they're set to my rhythm, my combinations, and I want my fighters to be unique, to be themselves. And the bag work allows them to do that. So I let them freestyle on the bag, but giving them little coaching cues and talking to them on the outside just builds that coach-student relationship. So at this point, I can give them cues and then they practice it, and then we practice in the ring. It comes out more natural, okay? So there is a bigger picture to the bag work. Have a concept, whether it's get tired, work technique, just in your mind, know what you're particularly working on. So remember, 5 mistakes that I see a lot of people make, especially now with the pandemic. Everybody has a bag at home. Take into consideration these 5 mistakes, improve, and be a better martial artist. Make sure you keep liking, subscribing to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Make sure you hit the bell notification, and we're going to see you next week here at Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA.